Welcome everyone to another episode of the Strugers podcast. We are the ones that got away. I am Mason Migliara. That is Patrick Previty. I hope everyone is having themselves a fantastic week as always. If this is the first time you're watching us, welcome. We're just two college students just talking about some sports. It's what we like to do. That's just about it. Nothing too much to it. But this week we got the Super Bowl coming up. We just had the most lovely Pro Bowl, which is in our actual in our vicinity. We were both go to UCF, so the Pro Bowl was pretty close to us. I know I didn't go. I'm not really interested in the Pro Bowl. I think it's kind of a joke now, and it really sucks that way, don't you think?
Yeah, no, you used the word lovely. I don't know if it's like that, Mason. I gotta be honest. The parking was so bad. It's already terrible for UCF students. It was good for UCF. I was very surprised that I guess they played at Camping World, and they used all of the facilities that we had. I mean, they pretty much used our IM fields for half of the like little events that they threw, right? The dodgeball and like the sled pulls. I think those were in the IM fields, like which is kind of pretty crazy to think about. They're nice fields, but there's nothing surrounding it other than a parking lot and like a lot of just forest. There's nothing
Yeah.
really there. There's no like stands.
Huh. Very. I actually had no idea that they were using like the IM
I
fields and all that stuff.
I think they used the IM fields, yeah. And then like they took some other like residential parking away from the people who lived on campus. So they took away like Garage B. Or well, actually I don't know if Garage B is residential parking, but they took a lot of other places, like a lot of lots, and those kids ended up having to move to like a Garage B for
Right.
like a week and a half. That was really tough, man. Couldn't go to the RWC at all. Because
Wow.
it was just the parking was just so bad.
Just gotta have someone pick you up, drop you off, huh?
Essentially, bro, it was bad. And then also, like, what do you think about the game? I'm just curious because, like, I honestly think that the events, first of all, they it feels like they don't uh advertise the events enough, but the events are fun in of itself. I honestly think that might just be it. That might just be all we need,
I
right?
mean,
Like,
I don't
why
think
need the game? The game was pretty. I don't tune in anymore. I haven't watched it in about 3, 4,
no.
5 years.
I think that the NFL has like the lowest um excitement level for like the All Star, which theirs is Pro Bowl. I think it's the lowest excitement. I mean, I think that the games are really fun. Like all the stuff that they do, it's just like little kids. I think that's what they're kind of going for. They're just going acting like little kids playing a game and all that stuff. But it's just not taken very seriously, and that's really unfortunate. When you compare it to like MLB, for example, like when the All Star game comes around, it's the home run derby and the All Star game, and people get absolutely hyped for that. And then also the Futures game, which is on the Sunday. No, it's on Monday. I think it's on either Sunday or Monday, and then the All Star game is on Tuesday, and then the home run derby is on Monday, and then they get that like Wednesday, Thursday off, whatever it is. Um, but that stuff is super exciting, and ESPN covers all that, and I think there's a ton of people that watch that. Meanwhile, for this stuff, like no one's really watching. I don't know the numbers on it specifically, but I wasn't really watching,
Uh,
and I wasn't even busy.
And
I
that's a
was
weird that's a weird thing for the NFL, right? Because an NFL regular season game, a Week 12 game, if it's a good matchup like Bills Chiefs or whatever, that's gonna outgain the audience from the NBA Finals. So the fact that nobody's
Mhm.
watching it is obviously a telltale sign of like, oh, like this is just a bad event. My thing is like, you know what? Everybody loves the 3-point contest. Essentially, that is, in my opinion, the almost the headliner. The dunk contest isn't good anymore, but um like I don't know who really watches the All-Star game. I mean, they had the draft. That was really interesting. I thought it was interesting. I thought it spiced it up. They're not doing that this year. Um I don't know. Like, would we look at it differently if it was the headliner for the NFL? Because technically they still hold the actual game as in like the pinnacle of the weekend.
Mhm.
I don't know. It might take it away. Hockey's also kind of holding on too, though. Like, because hockey, they had a really good All-Star weekend, but they had to change the format of their game like a lot.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
they're doing a ton of different things. And now they're also getting into like the celebrities being involved.
yeah.
Is the NFL just the first sport to get to that point, or the other sports doing something right that the NFL isn't?
I think that the other sports are doing something that right that the NFL isn't, and also I think with the NFL, it's just the risk of getting hurt is so much more. I think, just because of how much contact there is. Like they don't do tackle anymore. So it's not even like a real NFL game. It's a flag football game, which I get. Like that's fine if you want to keep everybody healthy. That should be the thing. Like God forbid someone tears an ACL in an All-Star or a Pro Bowl game. Like that would be awful
Yeah,
for the sport.
that would be
So
awful.
I understand that completely. Um, so I think that they need to take away the whole focus on the game itself and it being a flag football game. Just do what you've been doing, I guess. But I think the marketing and the advertising needs to be a little bit more. And also, I think the players need to take it a little bit more seriously. I think they do a good job of like promoting the sport, and all the fans get signatures, and the players are being super nice with everyone and doing all the interviews and the cameras and all that stuff. But I think they also can take it a little bit more seriously and not treat it as much of a joke, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the NBA kind of has an issue with that. Like they did it for Kobe the one year, and then after that, it just kind of fell down. Like so, it was really disappointing with that. It really just comes down to the players, and like at a certain point, there's nothing that the league can do. And I definitely think that's why the league moved to flag football. So it's just kind of says, hey, we're going to just go hands off and just let the chips fall where they may. I mean, we can't make this event any better than the players want it to be, if that makes sense. So I completely
Mm.
understand it. But really, the main storylines from the NFL, still moving into the Super Bowl, is the AFC and NFC championship games. I got a game right. You got a game right. I got a game wrong.
Mhm.
You got a game wrong. I had Ravens 49ers meeting, battle of the number one seeds, top overalls, and the colors of the logo on the Super Bowl, right? The Super Bowl logo.
It was.
But that was to no avail. It ended up being Chiefs Niners. You had the Chiefs, and you also had the Lions, and the Lions had that game in the bag. So I guess we'll start with them.
Yeah. That
What do you want to say about America's team?
they put up a great fight. It was a great game. They had that game in the first half. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but Kittle said they had us in the first half, but then we came back, and that's exactly what happened. For me, it's just that aggressiveness. I've been talking about it the entire playoffs. We've texted about it as well. I remember when they went for it on like fourth and goal. I think it was against the Rams, and it was either the Rams or the Bucks, whatever. They went for it on like fourth and goal, and I was like, "This is so dumb. I don't know why they're doing this. They need to just take the points." And then they got the touchdown. I was like, "Oh well, I was wrong." This time they were fourth and three. They were, I think it was at like the 37-yard line, so probably like close to a 50-yard field goal, just give or take. And they decided to go for it on fourth and three, and I think they were down by three, and they end up going for it, and they don't convert, and that's just their aggressiveness. That's Dan Campbell. That's their mo. That's what they do, and they live and they die by that. But in this game, they died by it because by that happening, that resulted in Brock Purdy getting the ball at his own 37, driving down the field and getting a touchdown, and going up by 10 points. I think late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter. But if you think about it, instead, if the Lions are more reserved and they take the 3 points, not that they're given because it's almost a 50-yard field goal. That's not a given. But in the NFL, you need to be able to kick 50-yard field goals. Now you're in a tie game, and then you're able to punt the ball away. And the 49ers are not starting on their own 37. They're starting at their own 20, 25, depending on if they do fair catch or not. And the momentum changes as well. Now you got a tie game late in the game, and things can go differently. But this time, the 49ers are like, oh, this we can put the nail in the coffin right here, and they end up doing that. And then when the Lions go down at the end of the game in the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes left, they end up scoring that touchdown. That could have been for the win. That could have been America's team going into the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. And it's just that aggressiveness that they have. Some people hate it, some people love it. I think more people love it than hate it. I've just been someone that's like in the playoffs, you have to be smart. You need to take the points because they're at a premium here. You can't be giving up that type of points, and that's where it got away from them, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, you said everything. Honestly, you said it all. When I look at the first fourth down decision, I'm cool with it. You're up 24-10. You want to put your foot on their neck. You don't want them to think that they can come away with the win. And I understand both sides of that. If they come away with stopping you from getting any points, that's a huge win. Um, more of a win than it would be if it was 3 points, but you want to make it 31-10. 31-10. Midway through the third quarter is getting to, really, really good spot, really good territory. So I don't really have a issue with that. And then you're right, now you find yourself after that they score a touchdown, then the Lions get the ball back, they fumble on the first play, then the other team scores a touchdown. And so now, you're in a weird spot, then you punt, then they get a field goal, or you have a 3-and-out punt, they get a field goal. So now you're down. Now the game has just gotten on top of you. All of a sudden, you've run four offensive plays since that fourth down, and now you're tasked with going down the field and trying to tie it up. In that scenario, in my opinion, I definitely think you need to get away from your analytical sense or just that moxie from going for it on fourth down. And I do think that they should have taken the points on the second time. And I thought that live before everything happened, and I just was like, I think this needs to be what happens. Now I know that they just signed their kicker. That was a big thing. I don't know if that is exactly a good enough reason, in my opinion. I think if you sign a kicker and you got him on the roster, I think if you can't make some of these kicks, man, there's definitely players out there that can. There's definitely kickers that have the ability. So that was kind of my live reaction watching. And then obviously, as you said, they put themselves in a weird position when they got the ball back anyway, because they didn't take a timeout, and they could have taken a timeout, kicked the field goal, and then just went on ahead and kicked it deep to try to score again. But instead, they really, really wanted a touchdown towards the end there.
Mhm.
So this is when they were down 10.
Yeah,
So that was another weird that looked like just poor game management.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I've been harping on Brandon Staley all year. Like, oh, decide who you wanted to be. And he's obviously now fired. He's on his couch. I think that's the big issue that some of these analytical coaches will face. And I don't know if Dan Campbell comes off as an analytical coach, but I feel like in a sense he is, because he goes for so much on fourth down. I almost feel like he there's a part of it, it's maybe misplaced, but his reasoning is misplaced, but he falls in the same line as them. And I think if you go for it twice and you get it once, that's good enough to do it every time. I think sometimes you got to cut your losses, and I definitely think there's no reason that you should lose your momentum up 24-10. And having been up 24-10 since the half, or excuse me, they were up 24-7 at halftime, right? So like being up 24
Yeah.
to 10, like nearing the
Yep.
midway of the third quarter, there's no reason why the momentum should flip. And you're on the road. I definitely think that these are factors that should be taken into consideration. They just seem to have lost their way in the middle of that game. And that was really disappointing to see. I thought that they were honestly like I thought they were the better team. I mean, from what I had saw, like I thought that they were better. I just think the 49ers offense got moving. Like they earned
Yeah.
everything that they got for the most part. I mean, they cashed in when they needed to, and that was really tough. I will say though, like you said, I do like it. He had gotten them to that point. They're not there without those decisions, so I can't really fault him too much either.
I totally agree with that. Like that, they got there based on that aggressiveness. But again, I just, for me, reading the situation, it's like you've been risking it, risking it, risking it, risking it. And I just don't think that right there was the best time to do it. I think you need to be able to tie the game, and then you have that momentum of, okay, now we've tied it back up. Now they have to respond. We're going to rely on our defense. It's also a thing, in my opinion, it could be like he may not rely on his defense enough. And, I feel like every game the Lions play, man, they're in a shootout of some sort. Like it's over 21, 24 points per game. So that could also be a thing. And then, the defense is like, oh shit, like we actually need to step up or whatever. So it could be a bunch of different things. But at the end of the day, they were super aggressive. That's how they were the whole season. And, it let them down here. And it was just one play. Like, it's not going to work out every time. But again, it just didn't. It was unfortunate of how it all went, but they're still a great team. They're going to be back next year, and I think that they're going to learn from this. And I think they're still going to be aggressive next year.
And
But
yeah, I think they're still going to be aggressive next year too. One thing I just didn't like about the end of the game was, and I realized that Dan Campbell knows how tough it is to get to that position and how it's just not guaranteed that they're going to get back. I think it's a pretty fair thing to say that they could be in contention to win the division. I mean, Green Bay Packers look pretty good. especially towards the end of the year. But I think for the most part, they're in a better spot than Vikings and the Bears are. So I think that's a good guarantee to say that they're in contention to win the division again, back-to-back years. But I think it's obviously not realistic for them to be back in the NFC Championship game. That's a tough task. I mean, if you look at the NFC Championship game, it's been pretty much a revolving door outside of the Niners. So
Correct.
it's a tough task. But I just didn't like I thought his comments were a little too real. In all honesty, I just think at the end of the game, I understand them being like, or he said something like, "Oh, I think we may have like that may have been our best chance to win a Super
Mhm.
Bowl." You know what? He may be right. Like we may see this Lions team in the playoffs again. Maybe they get bounced to the wild card a few times or something like that. And we think that those teams are really good and capable of doing it, but maybe they don't go as far as this Lions team does. Who knows? That's the very real reality of the NFL. I just thought that those comments at the end were like, I don't know.
Maybe
He's
you keep
right.
that.
He's right. Huh?
Maybe you keep that to yourself.
Yeah,
You know
maybe.
that's not what, because we know how the media is. They'll take that and they'll be like, oh, he doesn't believe in his team. He thinks this is it. He doesn't see the future and all that. Like you know how that they're gonna be. So
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there was plenty of storylines anyway going on that weekend from the other game. So there wasn't really exactly like a ton of heat, I think, on the Lions. They were also in a weird spot too. I think out of the teams that were playing that weekend, I think they were playing with house money. I think a lot of people were already happy with their season. Now with the Ravens, on the other hand, I think that there was like a lot of, I think there was a slight disappointment because I think I really thought
slight,
huh?
slight.
Well, I think it would have been a major disappointment if they had lost last week or the week before these games against the Texans. I
Yeah.
mean, no, I agree though. I was disappointed. I truly thought that they could have beat the Chiefs. I thought that they were a good matchup to the Chiefs too.
Mhm.
Like I thought that Lamar's running ability was a big deal. So,
That Zay Flowers fumble
yeah.
there right at the goal line. I mean, that was crazy. Like he was right there, man, and then just gets that ball knocked out, and that's the rule. How do you feel about that rule? I'm sure we've talked about it before, but how do you feel about that rule? Like with it being a touchback and everything? Because I remember I was having to explain it to other people who are not as much of a football fan, and I was just like, listen. So this is what happens. It's different than a regular fumble. Like let's say, you know, player A on the offense fumbles it, and then player B on the defense recovers it. That's a clear recovery. Now let's say player A fumbles it out of bounds at like the 45-yard line, then player A and his offense team, they get to keep the ball. But now, if player A fumbles the ball at the 2-yard line and it goes into the end zone and then out of bounds or recovered by the other team, it is now the other team's ball. So I don't know how I feel about that. Like, obviously, if the other team recovers it in the end zone, that's fine. Like, that, whatever. Bring it to the 20, 25, wherever it goes. But if the ball comes out in the end zone, I think that should just be it should be a dead ball wherever he fumbled it at. Like let's say he fumbled it at the 2 and then it goes out of bounds in the end zone. I think that what did the what did the defense do? They created the fumble, yes, but it's the same thing as it going right out of bounds. Like I think that it should be down where the runner was if the ball goes out of the end zone.
That's actually that's an interesting take. I mean, you're not alone in that. I actually disagree though. I
Really?
think I look at I look at there's a reason that you score a touchdown. And there's a reason that you don't do like in backyard football where it's like, oh, like close enough. Like that's like you already made it to the end zone that we're playing at. Like you got it. Like other team's ball, we can reset. Like there's a reason that you don't do it in the NFL. And it's because you get goal line stands. Like the end zone I thought was supposed to be this like sacred ground. So like yeah, if you fumble through the end zone, where are you supposed to take it up? But I agree. It is when you do look at it from a fundamental standpoint, like I guess the defense was just simply forcing a fumble. Is that enough to take away the offense, like everything from the offense to get the ball back and not only get the ball back where you're at, but get it at the 20? I could see an argument to be made if the defense recovers it in the end zone, they get it at the 20. But if they don't recover it and it goes to the end zone, you get it at the 1.
Mm,
The other team gets it at the
yeah.
one. But you know what? You bring up, like I said, you do bring up a good point because if you fumble it out of bounds and nobody like gets possession of it, specifically of the other team, of course, it goes right back to you where you fumbled it out of bounds at. So
Mhm.
I go back and forth because I could see why people get frustrated. Although maybe I'm getting a little bit blinded by the fact that it's always been like this, but I do like the idea of it being like the end zone being different. It means something. It's 6 points. Like there is a difference to it. But I think truly the only solution would be to give the other team the ball at the one.
Yeah.
And to try to even that out. Because I really only think the only unfair thing about that is the other team getting the ball at the 20. Because I'm actually not opposed to for it being a turnover. Because I do think if you force a fumble, all you need is a clear recovery if you're anywhere else on the field. And then if you fumble it through the end zone, like, you know, I think that that's grounds for the other team to get the ball. But I see exactly where the disconnect is. Is the end
It,
zone all that much different from the rest of the field?
yeah. I mean, because the Justin Jefferson play from early on in the year, he was basically right there. He's reaching across, and then the ball comes out, and it goes. It's a touchback, and now it's like, what? I don't know.
Also,
It's
I
a
think Zay Flowers play. I don't know if he fumbled out of the end zone though, but I know what you mean. I
there
thought
was something about
I
maybe
thought
I
he
maybe
reached forward. It almost, if I mean, it would have been. I thought he almost fumbled it out of the end zone. I thought a guy recovered it before it went out. I'd have to look at the play. Maybe I'm giving bad information, but
I
I
could be
mean,
wrong about
obviously that happened in the Bills Chiefs game, and look, it's going to happen every single year. This is going to get proposed
it.
by the NFL Rules Committee or whatever, or by an owner to the committee at some
Oh,
point. And you know what? Might be from the Bills, might be from the Ravens. So I'm interested to see what they decide. I honestly think I'm not really too like I don't think it would be the end of the world. Although I just think like I do like that part of the game though. I actually do like it. And I don't like taking away rules for defenses to be better because it's so hard to be good.
it is.
Um, but I see where you come from.
Yeah. Um. So overall, for the game
Yeah.
for the Ravens and the Chiefs, is it just a Ravens choke, or is it just Patrick Mahomes is arguably a top five quarterback of all time?
Oh shoot. Yeah. That's a good question.
It's.
Patrick Mahomes, I think, is top five. I think
I mean,
if he wins this game,
that would
I
be
think he's above
crazy.
Manning.
Like, holy
And
shoot.
like, I mean, I do personally think that Peyton Manning's talent is better than Joe Montana. Obviously, Montana's got the rings and the great
Hmm.
playoff performances to back it up. So like, I'd consider them like two A, two B kind of thing.
Okay.
But like, if I compare Mahomes to like Manning's resume,
Yeah.
certainly trajectory, he's gonna pass them both.
Yeah.
Trajectory. But like already, I would say he's got to be fourth. Right?
Yeah.
Already. Because I
So
think he's got to be
Brady.
better than Favre, Rodgers, Elway, Marino.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, Johnny
He's
Unitas, if
got
you want to go way back.
he's got the awards. He's got the numbers. He's got the rings. He's got all of it to
He's,
back it.
and I think Super Bowl appearances is pretty important too. I love
Yeah.
the whole conference championship thing that people were talking about. I am impressed with that. I'm not gonna say I'm not. I think it's impressive, but I think Super Bowl appearances, man, to get to four, bro. Manning only got to four. Look, Brady like is in a different world where he has 10, but outside of that, position players, I believe the most is like five or six, and those might be guys who are riding the coattails of Brady. I thought
Hmm.
who got some extra ones. Um,
Yeah.
but man, I mean, Manning had four, and he had like one at the end there that was like he barely had it,
Hmm.
and like Favre had two. Rodgers has one. Like Marino has one. He didn't even win it. Montana's got four.
Yeah.
Bradshaw's got four. I mean, these are guys who went 4-0, and they were only able to get four. Like, or I mean, sorry, they were able to get four, but they were only able to get four appearances. Like, I think four already under 30 is unbelievable. It is
Yeah.
he is
How many?
really on pace for Brady. Like he
Oh
is,
no. Oh, 100%.
yeah.
What year is this? Six, seven, six, six,
How old is he? 27, I thought.
27, 28, something like that.
28 maybe.
And he's made to the conference championship in every season that he's started, right?
That is impressive. I don't want to take that away from him. I just think,
Like, holy,
yeah, appearances
especially
are.
especially this year, dude. Like, I was doubting them the entire way. Like, they just haven't had the same team, and I felt like he just hasn't had the same type of weapons that he had early in his career. Obviously, with Tyreek Hill and everybody else, even when Hunt was with them, all that stuff. Um, but with this team that he's had, he's still been able to show why he is arguably one of the best of all time. And he's still in his prime. Like he's still got a couple of years left before he'll start his decline. But who knows? He could be like, I don't know if he's gonna be a Tom Brady. Because when Tom Brady came into the league, like he wasn't like the superstar talent that Mahomes is. Like, Brady had to learn and he ended up getting to that point. So I don't know. Is it possible for Mahomes to like keep this up into his mid to late 30s? I'm not even going to talk about 40s
I
right
think,
now.
yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I mean, Brady went till he was what, 45?
44, 45. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to whether or not he can actually, like, if he can catch Brady, whether or not the Chiefs can really hold and give him a second team. It honestly, it seems like it's not the bar is going to be lower because he's going to be so great. But can they do it? This year, the number one or one of the, I think the second defense total this year. So in
Yeah.
points and in yards or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
second total defense, that's pretty amazing. And that's honestly, that is the reason why I would say the Chiefs are in the position that they're at. I think that the other teams were good enough to knock off like a Patrick Mahomes like masterclass. I think that the Ravens were good enough to do it and the Bills. The Bills were hot enough at least. So like it's about whether or not that they can keep that going. And I think if they were even remotely competent, they can. And Andy Reid coaching, put them together and you'll have the same thing that the Patriots had. In my opinion, you really will. And you'll have, Josh Allen playing the role of Peyton Manning, Lamar Jackson playing the role of Ben Roethlisberger, and maybe Justin Herbert's playing the role of Philip Rivers. I think he's better than Philip was, but like still.
The
Maybe
role.
you have the same, yeah, you have the same guys doing it. So, and they're gonna dominate and they're gonna get through. Maybe Joe Burrow's playing I don't know what role Joe Burrow's playing. Maybe he's playing Drew
Is
Brees.
he playing Eli
Then they'll get
Manning?
one. Maybe he'll play Eli Manning. Yeah, you're right, because he's got one on him. So
He's got a
uh
couple. He's got one, yeah, whatever it is. So there might be another time. It's the same conference, but the role is it's just been a little bit of an adjustment in the role. But it's true. That is a great comparison and great like just way of saying it. We're just reliving it.
yeah.
I don't know if you've heard rumors. I feel like there's been small rumors that Andy Reid could retire after this Super Bowl. I don't know if that's true or not. Like that would be pretty crazy. He could go out either on top of the world, or he could be like, "No, we're gonna run it back. I'm not going out on a loss like that." And then he could run it back, and then we'll see what happens. But this would also, I guess, now we can move strictly into the Super Bowl, countering from the very lackluster of the Pro Bowl. Now we're going to the Super Bowl, where everybody is going to try hard. I, how many? When was the last time we've had a back to back? Do you know?
I think it was Patriots 0304.
Yeah, because I like
It's
it's
been a
it's hard
while.
to it's hard to repeat. I don't know the last time was the last back to back champion in all sports. What was it? The Lightning, probably the Lightning in
Yeah,
NHL,
yeah,
and
maybe the
then
Lightning.
before that was the Warriors.
Yeah, Warriors got a few there.
Yeah, they got a couple. So, but it's still super rare, like seeing such a dominant team for so many years. Do you think though that the 49ers have a chance at stopping them? I mean, you got Mr. Irrelevant, who isn't so irrelevant anymore, going up against Mahomes. I think that 49ers team, man, I mean, they got so much talent. They stack up perfectly, if not better, uh, to to the oh my god, to the Chiefs in positionally, going from quarterback. Quarterback, you got Mahomes obviously over Purdy, and then you have Christian McCaffrey. You have Christian McCaffrey over any running back that the Chiefs have over Pacheco and whoever else is back there. And then wide receivers, you got Debo and Ayuk. You take that over um,
Whatever the
Rice,
hell the Chiefs have.
Rasheed Rice as your
Yeah.
number one. I mean, Debo and Ayuk are better, obviously. And then tight end, you got Kittle and Kelsey. Those are two. Kelsey's a, I think, shoe in for the Hall of Fame. Kittle is right there. He could do it. If they win this Super Bowl, that helps Kittle for Super Bowl or for Hall of Fame. So that's pretty even. Offensive line, I think probably the 49ers have that as well. And then for the defenses, I mean, they're pretty even either way. So the only spot that the Chiefs have them really beat is going to be at quarterback, maybe tight end, probably tight end, and then probably the head coach.
Yeah.
So,
I think I'm looking at it right now.
uh,
I honestly just I think that when you go by the position groups, I think the 49ers look really good.
mhm.
Um, I like the Chiefs.
You like the Chiefs?
There's just
You
no
can't.
possible there's just no possible way I'm gonna pick against Patrick Mahomes. If you had told me before the season started that he gets a second total defense and he stays healthy, like and he stayed healthy this year. Um, who just won in your in your assessment, right? The Niners. Or when you were
Yeah,
looking,
on
yeah,
paper, like when
yeah,
you're
on
looking at like
paper.
the position groups.
Okay, yeah, I'm just making sure because I'm thinking like coach is more of a toss up, I feel. But like
Both of them are great. I
I might
think.
even yeah.
And
Um
Shanahan, yeah.
I mean shoot, Kyle Shanahan, this is his third Super Bowl because
Is it really?
yeah, because he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons.
You're
Yeah,
right.
way back when.
And they
So he's
choked.
actually and they were up I thought 10 by 10 points or whatever. Or maybe even two touchdowns on the Chiefs in the last meeting that
Oh,
they had.
in
So
2020.
yeah. So he's had a couple of rings just slip through his fingers a little bit. How much were they up? Do you know? I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking like there's just no possible way that if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm gonna let this one slide. But like I said, I'm gonna take Patrick Mahomes, the second total defense, and then we just go from there, you know?
Hello, my back.
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi just went out on me.
I just rambled for a second.
Okay, sorry. I heard you come back and then, or yeah, my fault. I think I like hit something on my laptop.
Yeah,
So
you're
we,
good. I just kept saying that I was gonna take the Chiefs. I was saying like Kyle Shanahan's had some rings slip through his fingers, but I still just don't think that that's enough. Like I mean, poor Kyle Shanahan. Like he should be able to get a ring. But were you able to pull up how much they were up on the last Super Bowl?
yes, so they were tied at halftime, 10-10, and then the 49ers scored 10 in the third and kept the Chiefs scoreless. And then the Chiefs ended up scoring 21 unanswered in the fourth. So
Wow,
they were up
wait,
by
what was the
10,
final score of that game?
31-20.
Oh my God. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Wow.
So
Yeah.
10-10 at half, and then 20-10 going into the fourth quarter, and then the Chiefs scored 21 unanswered.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I think this is gonna be. I actually think that the Chiefs are gonna win by two touchdowns.
wow, how
Yeah.
much money are you willing to put on that?
On a two touchdown win or on the Chiefs winning?
Both.
On a win, I'd put $50. I think
Are
that
they favored?
they're not, no. And the line opened at 1.5 for the Niners, and it continuously
Oh,
has moved, I believe. I think it's now like 2.5 or 3.5.
oh,
Yeah, for the Niners. I think it's just moving a little bit, just people picking them essentially until they get to a certain point. Now to win by two touchdowns, I'm less confident in that, but I do think that that is actually what is going to happen. Although, I'm realistic, so I could see both. But
yeah.
I'd say 10 on the two touchdowns, 50 on the win. I do truly just believe that they're a better team. The Niners haven't really peaked in this playoffs yet. We haven't really seen the best of them. I would have liked to see that. I mean, what else would I even ask from for the Chiefs? I mean, they beat
Yeah.
the Bills, hottest team in football. Then they went and beat the Ravens. In my opinion, they were the best team in football up until that point. And then the Niners got looked two and two. You can only play the teams in front of you. They played two NFC playoff teams. They played the Packers and the Lions. But you know what? I'm taking the Bills and the Ravens over both of those teams.
Hmm.
Ravens certainly showed it
I
against the Lions earlier in the year.
I mean, both of those games too. Like the Niners were on the edge of losing, right there. They very easily could have lost both of those games.
Yeah.
So I guess now thinking about that and thinking about how they played against the Packers and how they played against um, the Lions and how close both of those games were, when in reality maybe they shouldn't have been. At least the Packers game. The Lions, we love the Lions, but I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think it's so hard to go against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, man. I doubted them against the Dolphins for obvious reasons, and then I also doubted them against the Bills just because of how much firepower they had, and being in Buffalo. But they went into Buffalo and beat them. They went into Baltimore and beat arguably the best football team this season, and now they're going to be at Super Bowl 58 playing against the Niners. Rematch of 54, I think that Mahomes is going to show that he is a top five, if not top two. He's still got ways to go for Brady. He's still got to get the records. I think he's still got to get a couple more rings to get to Brady, but I think this is going to be ring number three for him as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we made our pick. Sucks for Brock Purdy. Is there anything that you think that the Niners can do in this game? Like, what do you think is the one way that they could, or maybe they have multiple ways that they can win? I think they have a few. I think if Christian McCaffrey can play like otherworldly, I would say then a lot of bets are off. Like if the
Mm-hmm.
49ers can control the clock, where on this defense, um, I would really I just think I honestly don't think that the Niners want to get into a shootout. I know that sounds crazy to say with Patrick Mahomes. I just don't. They just haven't had a lot of experience with it this year. I forgot what the stat was before they played the Bills. Um, it was something ridiculous. It was like they had four teams all year score above 20 points, no teams above 30 or whatever it was. Um,
What the?
if the
Yeah,
49ers were to, and I think that that's how they would score, right? Because the Chiefs have just locked down corners on both sides. I think a way that they could score is through Christian McCaffrey. If they were to get to 30, I think that that would be territory. Sure, Patrick Mahomes is certainly comfortable in, right? But n- not something they've had to deal with all year. And sometimes when a team gets to that point in the Super Bowl, you see you see a different team than you have all year, obviously.
yeah.
So I think that that's how they could beat them. But I don't know what your thoughts are, or if there's just
I,
simply not that many scenarios where the Niners win.
yeah, I don't know how many scenarios there are. I mean, there's a couple, but I feel like in every game that they've played so far in the playoffs, and even throughout the season, it's just been Christian McCaffrey the entire time. Um, and especially in these playoffs, I think he's probably got like four touchdowns total. I think he had two in each game at least. Um, so what more are you going to ask for out of him, especially going up against the second best defense this season? Um, so you got to see Brock Purdy throw the ball more. You got to get Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle all involved. Um, and then you still have to mix in McCaffrey in there. I mean, that's so obvious, but like that's what you have to do. You have to be able to spread the ball. You can't become too predictable running the ball or dump offs to Christian. So you got to make sure you're getting everyone involved, spreading the ball around. And Purdy just can't. I don't think Purdy's going to be scared. I don't think he's worried about everything. He's already been the last pick in the draft. Like what he's already far exceeded expectations. So I think if there's any way that they're going to win the game, they're going to have to stop Travis Kelsey. I think they can get away with letting Rasheed Rice. I think you got to double team Kelsey and then go one on one with Rice and whoever else they got. And just make sure Patrick Mahomes doesn't start scrambling. You got to get to the quarterback on defense. And then on the offensive side, again, just make sure you're spreading the ball around. You can't just rely on one guy. even if it's Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, even if it is Chris McCaffrey. I like what you said though. Respect Brock Purdy. I don't think he's going to be a deer in the headlights or anything like that. He's played in a ton of big games,
Mhm.
plenty of primetime games. Now nothing's like the Super Bowl, but he's dealt with enough. I think he'll be just fine. Honestly, I don't think that they lose this game just because of Brock Purdy. I think the Chiefs would win this game essentially. I think that that's what would come down to. But I definitely think got to limit the turnovers if you're Purdy. Can't have what happened against the Ravens happen against the Chiefs. Certainly you'd have no shot with that. And then I also just don't think if you get down 24-7, like you did against the Lions, that's going to work against this Chiefs team. I think this defense is way too good. I think they would really start flying. I think that game would be toast. I think I keep it within a score the whole game. I think that's when you got a shot.
Yeah,
Both teams, because I don't think that this game is going to add up to any more points than 55 or something like that.
yeah. Do you think the new coach out there and for the Chargers is going to be watching this game heavily? I think Mr. Harbaugh is going to be taking some notes.
I'd imagine. I saw that there was a price on these suites though. I don't know if you
Oh yeah,
saw it, but the yeah, Christian McCaffrey and his supermodel girlfriend, uh, even it was too much for them. I forgot what the amount it was for a suite. It was like 2.5 million.
yeah. I think his
I think
his
it was more than
supermodel
that.
girlfriend, wife, whatever. I think Olivia Cuplow, whatever her name is. She ended up buying the suite for her her family, her Christian's mom. It was like $2 million. First of
They ended
all,
up buying
that
it.
is ridiculous.
I thought that they didn't buy it. I would say you got to scalp a ticket for like 150K or something. And like you stand in the stands, get that experience, get heckled maybe. Although I will say I don't even know if you'd get heckled at the Super Bowl. I mean, it's pretty much just like it's like taking your kids to Disney. Everybody's there from all different places.
Hmm.
Everybody's got a little bit of money because you
Hmm.
spent the money to get here. I
Yeah.
don't know if you would get heckled if I'm being honest. There's not Philly fans around too, so it's like,
No.
you're kind of just dealing with the upper class of society essentially. I mean, essentially every important individual is going to be at this game.
Yep.
Priced out the common man in the Super Bowl look, bro. I really don't know how many families are going to the Super Bowl on like a little trip. I mean, I remember having there was a girl in my class in middle school. She went to the Broncos Seahawks Super Bowl up in New
Mm.
York. Um, I don't know if that's happening anymore. Maybe it's just maybe we don't got it like that, Mason, but I mean that's a
I'll tell
lot
you
of
right
money.
now.
These
I
tickets
do
are a
not.
lot. I
Yeah.
thought tickets aren't going for anywhere under like 5K. And 5K is like way up in the nosebleeds. If that. I mean, shoot, $5,000.
I'm sorry.
That's too much.
That's even like if it's my team, like if it was the Dolphins, like I would be like, I don't like there's no way I could pay for that, first of all. As a college student, hell no. There's no shot. But like even later in life, maybe 5 grand, but like is it worth it to sit all the way up in the nosebleeds? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd
that's the
want to
thing.
be
It's the seat, right? It's where it is.
yeah, yeah. 5 grand to be all the way up there. I don't know. I think I could sit in front of my TV and get a better experience eating some wings and all that stuff for maybe $50, maybe, depending on how much I'm feeding for the family or whatever. So
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to spend that much money. But like you said, yeah, Jim Harbaugh is going to be in attendance. That was a guy that we wanted to talk about earlier in the last episode. I said this, I kept saying this. There's no job he should go to in the NFL unless it's the Chargers. And you
yeah,
got a quarterback, and he knew it. He wasn't an idiot. And he said this in multiple interviews. Big reason why he came to the NFL, came to LA, coaching for the Chargers. They got one heck of a quarterback in Justin Herbert back there. They got the franchise quarterback. I think he's in a good spot. I think this team is going to make the playoffs next year. Um,
yeah. I think they got the right guy to lead them. I remember saying when we were talking about if he was going to leave Michigan or not. I was like, no, there's no way he's going to leave Michigan. He loves being there. He likes being in college. But it's true. This is the only job that he would have left for, and he had it and he took it. They got a hell of a quarterback, and they've got a hell of a roster still too. It just Brandon Staley wasn't able to do it for whatever reason. Um, so it'll be an exciting time. I think the Chargers are going to be looking up at the Chiefs and saying, "Hey, we're coming for you," and they're going to mean it this time. especially with Harbaugh leading the charge.
Yeah, I think this division looks really, really interesting because the
Mm,
Broncos have a lot of answers or a lot of questions that they need to answer. Not a lot of answers, in my opinion, that they have right now. They need to figure out that quarterback situation stat because they're, in my opinion, falling behind the Chargers because I think the Chargers of that team, Chiefs, modern day dynasty, we're watching it before our eyes. I think they're going to cement um, any doubter is going to be on that their dynasty. You know,
yep.
2 for 4. Some people might back off. 2 for 4, oh, 5, 6 NFC championship or AFC championship games in a row. Maybe not. I need three in a span of however many years. If they win three, they get it. They're a dynasty. So you're in a division with a dynasty, Harbaugh, and a franchise quarterback. And the Raiders, whatever the Raiders can do. I mean, the Raiders probably can't do very much, but
They end
they
up.
looks like they may have just got their head coach. What'd you say?
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Talking about what Antonio Pierce, right? That's his
Yeah.
name. I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, everyone was behind him. Everyone wanted him. The locker room wanted him. I think the fans wanted him. So they ended up making a finally, for once in their lives, they made a good decision, and they got him. They got their guy there. So I think that they're going to have a good culture that's going to start being built up. Maybe not next year, but in the coming years, the Raiders will be back and they'll be doing their thing. So you're right. The Broncos, they got to figure out their shit right now.
Yeah. Um, but I think the expectations honestly playoffs. I think he can garner a certain level of of motivation in this team and just fix whatever he wants to fix. Now Harbaugh is probably more of a control freak. I think they get the reputation as college
Mm-hmm.
coaches that they like to control a lot of stuff. But I think he'll be fine. And I think with Justin Herbert buying in, I think this team should be a-okay. As long as injuries, there's now injuries, not coaching and injuries, just injuries now. I think that they'll be fine. But yeah, there were a ton of different moves in the coaching carousel since last time we talked. I remember we were waiting for it all to hit, and it just kind of all fell down in a few days. I can run
Mm-hmm.
through these, and we could see what
Yeah,
our
run.
overall feeling is. The latest one and the last one to fall, I believe this was the last one to fall. The Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Quinn comes into town. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's about the feeling. They did just get Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. So that looks to be the angle that they're playing. They wanted a veteran head coach who had coached before, I'm guessing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
guessing. And pair him with an offensive mind so they can get their quarterback in the future or help
Yeah.
Sam Howell.
I think they should probably help Sam Howell. I don't know where are they at in the draft. They're probably like 6 or 7 range.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't know
think
if they're
they're not in that first group.
yeah. So I think maybe you look for next year or try and move up. But if not, I think you can work with Sam Howell. I think that they definitely can. You got a defensive minded head coach and then Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, he's a respectable offensive mind. So I think you're in a good spot there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I see what they're saying. Falcons got Raheem Morris. Kind of a little bit
Yep.
shocker. Big into the Bill Belichick sweepstakes. Only person in the Bill Belichick sweepstakes, really. Raheem Morris
Mm-hmm.
coached for the Bucks in the early 2010s, late 2000s. He was the first guy after Gruden. I remember him growing up. He was my first Bucks head coach. I started watching in
Really.
2009. Yeah, I started watching in 2009. So it was
Mm-hmm.
post Gruden. And there's a reason it took him almost 13 years to get another head coaching job. I hate to say it, but the Bucks organization was just in a way different spot than it is
Yeah.
now.
He
I'm
brought
not
over.
real. I don't really like this hire, if I'm being completely honest. I thought that they were better guys for the Falcons. He's also a defensive guy.
They brought over a couple of people from the Rams too. I think they brought the OC over, or like someone under the OC, like a wide receiver coach or something, quarterback coach, something like that. I think they brought over a couple of those guys, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know a whole lot about Morris, so I don't really know how it fits. We'll have to see.
Yeah, he was interim after Dan Quinn was fired. He went 4-7. So he coached for the Falcons. I believe he was the defensive back coach for a lot of those years. Maybe he
Mm-hmm.
was the D coordinator. I can't remember. But he coached for the Falcons. He has connections. I think that was part of the hire as well. He was 32 when he coached the Bucks. He was really, really young, one of the youngest
Mm-hmm.
guys ever. It just didn't work. And so am I gonna sit here and say that a young coach who got that opportunity however long ago should get a chance again? Nah, but It's a different world we live in, to be honest, man. I do scratch my head a little bit whenever there's not an offensive guy taking over.
Mm.
But yeah, moving to the Panthers again, staying in that division. Dave Canellis, from the Bucks OC, first year as the OC, kind of reunites with some of his Seahawks ties who are now handling things with the Panthers. 42
You
years
know
old.
more than you know more than I do about him. So if you think is it good?
I think it's good, honestly. I like it. I think it's bold, and it's not what the Falcons decided to do, and it's not really
Hmm.
what the Commanders decided to do, but they decided to go for it, be bold. Um, it's just a whole pivot for this franchise. I like it. I think it's good. I think with Bryce Young, you know what, you already have your quarterback. I think there's no time to waste. Um,
Yep.
so I would say keep going for it. Jerron Mayo though for the Patriots. We talked about him a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah. I think we've talked about these last few. Um, yeah, I think just keeping it in house. That's just kind of how the Patriots do it. I think when Belichick probably left, he was like, "Hey, this is the guy," and he, we'll see. He knows the Belichick scheme. He knows what he's doing. He's been with them. He was a player for him, so I think he's just going to kind of go in there. He's not going to replace Belichick. He's not going to be the same exact guy. It's not going to be the same thing, but he's going to try and create the same kind of feel and just that culture that Belichick was able to build. Um, Obviously with Brady, and it didn't work out as much with Jones and everything, but I think it'll be fine. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but in the coming years.
Yeah, so we did talk about a few of these guys. Obviously, we mentioned Antonio Pierce in this episode. He's the new guy for the Raiders after a good interim, 5-4. You said that
Yep.
you really liked that move.
I do because I know Mac Crosby really wanted him, and rumors are just rumors, but I'm still going to address them. If they didn't hire Pierce, I think that Crosby would have requested a trade because that's how much he was behind Antonio Pierce being their new head coach. So I think making your best player on defense and probably best player overall. Oh no, they have Devonta Adams, but you get what I'm saying. One of your best players, making him happy is a very good idea, and I think a lot of the fans were also around it. So making people happy, I think, is very important because it just creates a feel of comfort, and I think that's super important. So, and he did a good job.
Yeah, he
So,
did. Yeah, he did perfectly fine for the for his interim position. And I think making your players happy and building that culture and just some sort of unity is really important when you bring in a new head coach. I do actually really like this move. And I think you have to know your organization. You know what? Shoot, maybe Vegas would have loved to have Bill Belichick or Mike Vrabel, but the guy in-house won it and he earned it. And you
yeah,
still went through an interview process and he still killed it. So
yeah,
shout out to Antonio Pierce. So I'm very interested to see what he does. And a lot of these guys that we've seen on this list and guys in the NFL were interim coaches at one point. Dan Campbell, interim for the Dolphins.
yep,
Um, it sometimes happens like that. Sometimes you do make the right decision when you have a feeling that there's a guy in house that could be your interim. Is the next guy up that you would put as a head coach? Sometimes they do actually make good head coaches, not just for the interim time. But the
yeah,
Titans ended up getting Brian Callahan, OC for the Bengals the last 4 years. I thought this move was pretty good, and I think it just changes like the offense in Tennessee. I like it
hmm
because it's an offensive move. Looks like they're probably going to be rolling with Will Levis, you think, for the next year? And I think that it'll be
probably,
Will Levis and Bill Callahan for the next
yeah,
season.
yeah, yeah. Give it a shot, see what happens. If it doesn't go well, just get another quarterback.
Yeah. Son of Bill Callahan. He coached also Peyton Manning, Matthew Stafford, and Joe Burrow. So he's got a little bit of a quarterback whisperer kind of resume going
Mhm.
on. Then Mike McDonald for the Seahawks, obviously the D coordinator for the
Uh-huh.
Ravens. As defensive
Yep.
coordinator, he led them to a couple top five finishes in defense. So they're sticking with defense over there in Seattle. I can't really blame them on that one. Um,
Hmm.
at a certain point, it looked like they were really trying to pivot away from the Pete Carroll mold, and then looks like they're going to stay in their lane with another defensive guy.
Yeah, yeah. Just keeping it similar, keeping it comfortable. Nothing wrong with that. I know that you like the offensive moves. I like that too personally. I think it's better to have an offensive minded head coach. But we've seen defensive guys go in and do very well. So there's lots of high praises about McDonald. So we'll see.
Absolutely. And I guess we're towards the end a little bit of our Super Bowl preview show and just general almost last NFL football show during the season, I would say.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I'll move us right into the shout outs. We talked a little bit about All-Star Weekend. NHL did have a really good one, or at least a more interesting one than what we've seen from the NFL. And they are certainly on par with the NBA. They had Michael Bublé, Justin Bieber, Tate McRae all running around performing. Coaches too. I believe they were a part of the picking the teams. That was really interesting. And I thought that what the NHL was doing was just innovative, and it was just not as lazy. I like to see Peyton Manning and Eli Manning out there coaching the Pro Bowl. Um, I don't know. It just feels like those getting those stars for the NHL was huge. Those are some big names. I liked
Oh
it. I
no,
thought
they
it was
are.
really interesting. Um,
It was in Canada. Justin Bieber's a Canadian. He's a native, so I think that's big for them. But yeah,
Absolutely.
overall stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really good. And I kind of am hoping that other sports can take that mold. The NBA All-Star game is or weekend is coming up this week. We
Hmm.
are very close. So that's just, food for thought. We'll see how that ends up going for the weekend.
And as for my shout out, I will admit I am a WWE fan. I pay attention to it all. My dad and I have been talking about it a lot over the last couple of years. And I think the WWE messed up. They did the wrong thing. They went for the big money play. They decided to bring The Rock back to WWE, bring him back to his roots. The Rock has a huge following, of course, and he's an absolute megastar. And he's going to go up and face Roman Reigns, who has been the champion, the WWE champion now for almost 4 years. And he's going to, it was supposed to be Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes was supposed to finish his story. They've been building this ever since Cody Rhodes came back to the WWE after being gone for a couple of years. Um, it's just really sad that they build this whole thing up. They give Cody Rhodes the cover of their video game and theme it, finish your story, and then it's just The Rock comes in and kind of little bros Cody Rhodes and says, "Nah, you're gonna move off to the side. I'm The Rock, and I'm gonna go and face uh, Roman Reigns to figure out who is the real head of the table." Because The Rock and Roman Reigns are actually like family, they're connected in that way. But WWE, as much as it is scripted and all that, it's still very entertaining in my opinion. I very much enjoy watching it. I like seeing the storylines that they create. But with this one, they're trying to turn Cody Rhodes into Daniel Bryan, what he was back in like 2014, 2015. But I think that they had the story perfectly lined up and they just allowed The Rock to come in and just say, "No, I'm going to take it." So shout out to that. Not really a good one, but I just want to shout out WWE because I think they do some good stuff over there. It's been really good the last couple of years, but I think they messed up here.
Hmm. Interesting. I'm always interested in what they can cook up, honestly, in general. I do find it entertaining too, and I think when you embrace the fact that it is scripted, I think that's when you can have the most fun watching it because
Mm-hmm.
they're putting so many personalities against each other, and it's just really fun time. And obviously, the performers are doing stunts and stuff like that. That is extremely tough.
I actually met a wrestler at LA Fitness down the road.
Oh, dude, yeah. In Orlando, I feel like there's a bunch.
No, there's this huge. His name's LA Knight, and I was at the gym with my girlfriend, and I was up on the treadmill, and I see this big ass dude just pulling a sled, just no problem. And I'm like, holy shit, that's LA Knight. I text my dad, I text my other friend who watches wrestling, and I got a picture with him, and he was a super nice guy. But the performance center is about 20 minutes away from where we live, or right away from UCF. So it was cool to see him there. I've always wanted to go to an event there, but I just haven't really had time. But
Yeah,
yeah,
this has kind of been
WWE's
a,
cool.
a little bit of a Orlando City advertisement. There have been a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that goes on here. This is, I would say, maybe even an underrated market slash sports town. We got a
Oh
lot
yeah,
going on. Shout out Magic though, still
always.
still being really good. Oh, you know what? Before we get out of here, final score predictions though for the Super Bowl. I
Ooh,
already got one cranked in the tank because I was thinking about this
yeah.
question. 35-21. I'm gonna stick with my guns. Two touchdowns. Um, Maybe the Niners take a field goal or two in one of those, and they get to 21 somehow with a couple of field goals. I feel nervous about not picking a single field goal for the entire game, but I'm gonna say 35-21.
Give me the Chiefs 28-17.
28-17. Okay. Wow. 11 points.
11 points.
Wow.
Not a full two, but not a full two touchdowns, but yeah,
Pretty much halfway there.
pretty
A little
much.
way. Well, they're over halfway there, but yeah, not last touchdown. Wow. Patrick Mahomes, three rings. That's going to be a very interesting conversation that we have following the Super Bowl.
Or we have a conversation of Mr. Irrelevant knocking down one of the best of all time. We'll have
That's
to
a
see.
that's a movie deal. That's a movie
A
deal.
movie. That's a movie
Inbound
deal.
comes Warner Brothers or A24, whoever can write that script. I'm sure they'll
Whoever's
do a great job. But yeah, this has been the Streakers podcast. I'm Patrick Previty. That's Mason Migliara. We'll be back after the Super Bowl to talk everything that happened on Super Bowl Sunday. But until then, see you next time.